So, everyone, I would like you to meet Allison. Allison is one of our newest members, and honestly, she's just, to me, you are just changing things for not just your son, but right now, even in even in our program, I notice a lot of people are so inspired by your Win Wednesdays. They're asking you questions, and that's the beauty of being in a community that you actually can pick other people's brains. So, thank you for doing this interview with me. It's super appreciated. Okay, let's dive into question one. Let's rewind. What was your life like before you joined the BLA?
So Merrick we got our autism diagnosis when Merrick was 3, so in May of 2023. What led us there was he had been kicked out of 2 local daycares at the time for aggression, biting and hitting. He was completely nonverbal. He was not potty trained. We At that time, he would make no eye contact. He had no emotion. It felt like he was just like looking through us. He was so distant. It was this We had no relationship with him. He um he wouldn't like functionally play with toys. He would just like spin wheels, he would spin propellers, that kind of stuff. He wouldn't acknowledge anybody else or even us. I remember in his private like psych evaluation that we had for the autism diagnosis, he would just like be in a corner, turn his back to everybody, and just like solo play kind of thing. So he wasn't like seeking me out to show me things or anything like that. He wasn't seeking anybody out. He got kicked out of the daycares. I was working full time, and we were starting a business. So it was really tough. I ended up going on stress leave because nobody could look after him. We also couldn't hire a private babysitter because we tried that. We tried, normal babysitters, and I'd get calls and texts about him being out of control or that he was hitting or biting or not listening. And then we tried, I would get a text that was like, they're not coming back, that kind of stuff. So, um, he, it was like he was like a shell of himself, is what I feel like he used to be. Constantly melting down, constantly like a sensory overload. He was the pickiest eater. He survived off of veggie sticks, the chips, and the top of bran muffins, and sometimes like baby food packs. And he was gaunt. His cheeks were sunken in. He was very pale, bags under his eyes. He used to not sleep. Like he'd go to bed fine eventually, but then we could hear him at night just like laughing or yelling like in his room. He was just up all night. And so those were it was like we couldn't take him anywhere. He was eloping everywhere. We couldn't like he would go and dart across the road, dart in a parking lot. Like if we took him to the park, he would run off if he was no longer interested in being there. And then if we had to leave something, God forbid, it was like a meltdown and crying and hitting. And I remember having to pick him up and just like you dreaded leaving anywhere. My husband couldn't take him to the stores. He wouldn't take him to the stores because you just never knew the version of Merrick you were going to get at that time.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. How old was he roughly when he got kicked out of his second daycare?
I would say he was like around 2.
Yeah, just a little guy and already going through so much, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I know that when we first met, you had tried some things and you had seen things happen. So tell me about the therapies, the diets, the supplements before you started in the BLA, and kind of what made you feel like some things were working. Like, what were the light bulb moments? What were the ones where you were like, this is just not it?
Totally. Yeah, so we paid for private speech therapy. And we were going bi-weekly ever since he was like 18 months, 2 years old. So we were going bi-weekly with no progress. And like it wasn't just like no progress with the speech therapy, it was like letting him like we would go to the speech therapy and then having to like leave, and it would be a meltdown every time we left. And then so it was like you were dreading that. And then he really wasn't excelling at all in the speech therapy. We were doing it. I was very much doing it at home as well, and there was no progress. We did occupational therapy like privately, and that wasn't a good fit for us. So I didn't feel that was benefiting us, so we stopped going to that. And then he did start his like a specialized pre-K that had therapies kind of like woven into the school, which were half days, Tuesday to Friday, so 4 days a week that they worked with him as well. We tried like spray detoxes. We tried like magnesium supplements to help him sleep. We tried that stuff. I did take an occupational therapy course myself, to work on the picky eating, to be able to help him in that kind of thing, which also worked on like being him able to get dressed and work on potty training. So I took that course and then we implemented it at home. So we did see some successes in that. Worked on like transitions, things like that. So I felt like everything got a little bit better, but we weren't living still. Like we didn't feel like we were living a life, like we were still dealing with huge emotions and sensory overload. And we ended up last Christmas, so Christmas of 2024 was a really emotional Christmas for us. It was really bad. He couldn't even be at my parents' house for Christmas dinner. My husband had to leave. He was just so overwhelmed, and it was overwhelming. And so my husband left with him, and I stayed with our daughter at the time. And I remember going home with him, and he was like, we both were like, we can't live like this. Like this is no life for him. This is no life for us. Like something needs to change. Like we can't keep going like this. So we cut everything out. Basically, at that Christmas going into 2025, we cut out zero screen time. We cut out all processed foods, dyes, sugar. It was basically like carnivore, um, with some fruit. But we started there and slowly added some, fruit in after that. And that was like the biggest change that light bulb moment change. Like we started to like see who Merrick actually was. Like we started to see like the light of that huge lifestyle change at that point. And basically stopped like all of our private therapies too at that point. So he was still on his specialized pre-K, but we weren't doing bi-weekly appointments or anything like that, and no like supplements or anything.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
You had the breaking point. We all have it. I think that every autism parent hits that moment where they're like, this is just not something that's sustainable. I think
Yeah.
that part of your story is so huge and resonates probably with so many people, especially at the holidays.
Yeah.
I think that it's amazing that you were willing to try something, even if it was an elimination. I think that
Yeah.
elimination has its place for sure. So then I do have a question about that. Was there a moment before you hesitated in enrolling with the BLA, and what was going through your mind?
Oh yeah, there was definitely a hesitation for sure. I think that there's a lot of scams online. There is. And they prey on a lot of vulnerable, additional needs parents, because usually, personally speaking, when you're looking up things to help your family, it is at a vulnerable time like that. It's the middle of the night and you haven't slept. It's after a meltdown. It's a call from the school, a call from the daycare, and you're at your wits' end and you're just like, I need to try something. So everyone's probably been scammed and no scams or see scams. And that was a big hesitation in joining, because it's like I didn't know you. I didn't know your team, right? So I just I didn't know if it was going to be a right fit. And then um I remember hearing your story and I was like, yeah, well that worked for her, but it wouldn't work for me. Or like what, like her son's different than mine. Like it's not going to work. And I remember feeling or saying that to myself. Yeah.
Ah, of course. And I think that that happens a lot, because it's hard to describe from our end what it looks like in a program because they're all so different. And
Mhm.
there is a lot going on online right now. It's so fair. So fair to have those thoughts for sure. And so what finally helped you to decide to say yes? What was that moment, even with those fears? What was like that, okay, you know what? We're doing it.
There's a couple things. One was that I think it was like one of your webinars that I watched that you said that you had spent a lot of time and researching, and it took a lot of time, and a lot of those things were dead ends. That it wasn't time wasted. We always learn, but it didn't help your son. That was valuable time that wasn't helping your son. And then I thought to myself, like, how many hours and days and months have I spent researching on my own that has got us to this point? Um, that was an eye opener for me. And I knew that I didn't have time to waste. I knew that, I have a daughter, we own a business. I didn't have the flexibility to be researching 20 hours a day. So and I knew that, this huge mental leap was coming for Merrick between the ages of 5 and 7. And I wanted to be able to give him such the best opportunity possible to be able to take advantage of that and see him excel. I also remember, I think it was like on maybe just like the information call, that they talked about the schedule, and they talked about like how many calls, and showed me, like, I asked to see the platform and what that looked like, and there was nothing hidden. It was like, oh, here's all the tabs, here's the recipes, and this is the picky eating one, and this is the BLA, and this is the Win Wednesday. And it wasn't like there was no guessing. It wasn't like, oh, some secretive thing where it was like, yeah, you must pay and then you get access to this. It was like, this is what you get access to, and these are where you can ask your questions, and these are the moms that you can talk to. So I remember I was like toying with the idea of joining, and then the quote, like, if better is possible is good enough, kept like coming to me every time I thought about it. And I was like, what was the amount of money that I would pay to have a relationship with my son? What is the amount of money that I would pay to be able to, like, for him to be able to advocate for himself and tell me about his day? And it wasn't even about like verbal, it was about like eye contact, having a connection, for him to feel like he was in control of himself. I didn't know what that amount of money looked like, but I knew it wasn't more, the program wasn't that. I was willing to be able to pay for that program, for the possibility for him to be able to get there.
What an interesting way to think, and it's so powerful. It's a little bit of why people get stuck. And, I also went through a lot of mindsets around when I started joining programs for support. And it is something that we all go through. I think we're brought up in a world that's so different. I love that. And you're such the most amazing asset to the program. And I'm glad that we do offer all of those open-ended transparency. This, you could see it all. Here we go. Okay, so now, what was the first wins you noticed with Merrick, even if they were small?
I was like, I remember, it's funny, it's like first wins because I've only been since July.
There's so many.
Right? I was like, but he's come so far since July. Like, he's able to like have a conversation with us now, which is really cool. Before, kind of, we would just ask something and he would just like recite it back to us. He didn't, his receptive language really wasn't there. And now he understands. And like, I ask him when we get him from school, like, how was your day? And he says like fun. And he says like words that actually are part of the question, like they make sense to what we're asking. We're able to take him everywhere now. We're able to, like, we took him to this big city zoo. We took him to the science center in a big city. We take him to the playground. We take him to all their stores. Like, we had to go work on some land, and it was a 3 hour drive there. And we were in the skid steer and working on the land, in a 3 hour drive home. And he had the best day. He didn't complain one time. He just had the best day with us. He now plays with his sister. Like, they will sit and read books together beside each other. He comes to like his dad and I and shows us his toys and wants us to play with him. And if we ask him to like go downstairs and go play with his trains, he will ask us to come with him and wants to be a part of it.
Tell me,
He
sorry to interrupt. Tell me how you describe Merrick, because you've described Merrick a couple of times. Is like he wakes up. Use how do you exactly say what you told me about Merrick?
Merrick wakes up and he just wants to have a good time. Like he is like everyone that ever talks about him is always like he is the most happy, affectionate guy. And that is a huge part as to why I wanted people to see him like that and not be scared of him with his meltdowns and being unable to advocate for himself to get to the point where he feels the need to have to throw things and bite and hit. He's able to be himself now. Like we did have to deal with hugging strangers and kissing strangers at one point, but like he's just like he hugs everybody and now we'll like wave at everybody and he's like walking to school, he'll say hi to everybody, good morning, he'll hug his teacher. He is so affectionate and he's funny and now we get to see that side of him where he's trying to make us laugh. I remember a big thing was that you couldn't discipline him because he didn't understand. Like it's not that he was even like defiant. He did not know what was going on around him. So he would wreck all of our stuff all the time. He wrecked our wedding topper and I was so upset by it. And it was like he'd wreck all of his toys. He'd wreck everything and would have no like even thought about it because he didn't know. And then when you tried to discipline him, he would just like look past you. He wasn't even looking at you. He didn't understand. And now, and like even when I was sad, I'd be crying in front of him. I remember he would just like laugh and like look through me. And it was devastating, like as a mother. And now, if I am upset or I'm crying, he'll come up to me and like wipe away my tears and go like wipers, wipers like a car and he says like are you okay mommy or it's okay mommy and it's like if I'm mad and he knows it he'll come up to me now and go breathe because
Wow.
that's what we teach him to do and it's like it does help because then it's like hey you take a minute and stuff but it's like all of these things that we've done for so many years that we've said to him and modeled and everything that we thought was one ear out the other he's able to do that now and he's able and like when his sister takes something from him now he says like angry and says like stop instead of hitting her or throwing a
Yes.
train at her head or something like that like he's able to use his words and he doesn't automatically go to hands on and
Which is amazing. So, and I want to dive a little bit deeper because there's something that we haven't covered that always is kind of is like your wins with the nutrition, the feeding, the oh, I we went through picky eating and then we went carnivore. Describe a little bit on that part of it, because like in 2 months, like honestly, we wouldn't even consider America picky eater at this point.
yeah, no, from where he was, like however many, 2 years ago to where we are now, I don't even know if people would believe. I don't even know, like, how we said, like, they're supposed to have like 30 to 50 different foods, different kind of things. And I was making my list on my phone, and every time we add something new, I added it into my phone, which is so funny because I was like showing my husband and I was like, aren't you pumped up about this? And he was like, yeah, this is great. And I was like, what kind of life are we living? But it's exciting when you've come from this other place, right? So yeah, originally from our picky eating, then we and I think that this is where a lot of parents will resonate with from this picky eating because I'm part of Facebook pages, I'm part of other groups where we talk about it and they're like, well, how my kid won't ever do that because they're the pickiest eater. And it's like that, like it's like the TikTok videos where it's like, I know ball, girl, I know, because we were there. And we started with that and slowly then we morphed into gluten-free and dairy-free, but he was eating so many processed things, but it was healthy because it was gluten-free, dairy-free. And the behaviors weren't changing. The eczema was still horrible. We were on steroid cream. Um, we had little gains, but with all that processed food, he still was like up and down, unable to do anything basically. And so once we cut all that out and then moved to the very limited diet, is where we saw all of our gains. And then it was easier to implement everything else. And a huge thing that brought me to the program was that I never wanted him to feel without. I never wanted him to feel different than the other kids. I wanted him to have a great relationship with food. I never wanted it to feel like he wasn't having fun or was different than what the other kids could have. And I knew with the carnivore diet, he doesn't get any fun things, like, So with your program, it was so nice to be, and I knew he was missing a key nutrition that I couldn't give him on the carnivore diet, and I didn't know how to. I'm sure I could have researched it over how many hours and days and months and to get to that point, but I didn't have that, and that's what I liked about the program is that you really focus on a healthy relationship with food and not a lack of mindset or take away things. It's like a safe process where you slowly introduce things. And I watched Ella's interview yesterday and I was the mom with the syringe. That was me when I was like, how do I get my kids to have juice? Like, Merrick's only ever had milk or water and he's not having this. And as a typical mom, I went from like 0 to 100 and made a green smoothie. And he was like, you're out of your mind. This is not happening. So I asked in the community and I said, like, how do you get your kids to even try this? Like, and then she said, like, try a syringe and make it fun. And now my kids love it. And both my kids have it and they want their medicine in the morning. And yeah, it's night and day from where we were before.
Yeah, I love it. I love seeing the list of like one day you added, you were like, this is what we got in this week. And I was like, wow, like I remember meat being on the menu. I love that. That's amazing. Okay, so what surprised you the most about the program or the process?
I really liked where when we had our meeting that you met me where I was at.
Mm.
Um, we had come leaps and bounds from where we were with the diet already, but I knew, like I said, there was nutritional deficiencies that we had, and I never once felt judged about with any of the coaches that are in the program about what I was or was not doing. You asked questions and listened to what I was saying. And then when I told you about like what we were eating during the week, you made a meal plan based off of that and how to, okay, this is where we are and this is how we're going to slowly add things in or take things out or substitute things. And it felt doable. It didn't feel like you were like, okay, now completely overhaul your whole menu and buy all these expensive supplements and here you go. It wasn't any of that. It was like, hey, like let's slowly add this to what you're already doing, kind of thing, which I really liked. I also really liked that the coaching calls, there's always time at the end to discuss things that we're working on or that we need help with or have questions with. I do a lot of research myself. And so then I can bring it to the call and say, like, hey, this is kind of what I found. What are your thoughts? And I really like the mindset calls with Sangita that she like calls you on your stuff, like if you're talking, it's kind of like, and she's like, okay, let's just maybe rewind a little bit. Maybe we could, like, I've done a lot of personal work myself, clearly, in the last 2 years to look after myself after losing myself through the journey. It's nice to have a place where she says, like, let's, start to like rewire how we speak to ourselves and let's, like gives you a voice again,
Yeah,
which
I
is
love that.
as a mom. And then to like, yes, you never want to hear other people struggling, but then hearing other moms say like, yeah, I'm pretty down in the dumps and it's okay, like to meet them where they're at and like, hey, how can we just get a little bit better today, like that's been really nice
I love
rather
it.
than
Love
having to
connecting
like
that.
fake it, like. And I think that in the autism world, especially like personally speaking, nobody really knew how dark it was because I don't even think my husband and I knew how dark it was. Like when you're in it, you're in survival mode. It is every day is fight or flight. And it's advocating or one step ahead. You're always one step ahead trying to plan or figure out how we're going to make it through this event or do this or plan this, and it's exhausting. And to not and to have other moms and other, like coaches like you that have actually been through it. Like you're not just like, oh yeah, I have a background in this stuff. Like you lived it. You were there. You had a son that, whatever your journey looks like, we all know that feeling of being in the dark, feeling like a prisoner in your own life, not being able to help your family. Like that feeling is so lonely. And not even to be able to like tell my parents because they got it, but they didn't get it. Unless you're living it, they don't know. So it's like I really did like when you said like, you did this whole lifestyle change, and sometimes that meant, you had to distance yourself from your family for a bit or until, they got on board or until they started doing it's true. And that's part of it. And then I think once they see the change, like then they become believers too, right? So it just takes time, but it's lonely. And so it's nice to have a group where everybody wants change and it's not just some Facebook group where it gets all crazy and wild. And I think that personally speaking, I have never really shared my story because a huge thing online is why are you trying to change him? Why can't you just accept autism? Why can't you? And that's what you're met with a lot. And I'm at a lot of hate, a lot of bullying. And I think to myself when people say that, it's like I don't hate autism. I hated my son feeling like he was a prisoner in himself. I hated what that did to him. And if, like if I can help other people see that it doesn't have to be like that. And that's what's nice about this community is that everyone's there for the greater good for their family. Like nobody is judging anyone about anything. Like the other day, like we were talking about how like stinky our family has been, and not just like my family, there were other moms just like we're eating all these vegetables, we're eating lentils, like we're having garlic, like there's a lot going on here. And everyone's like, yeah, me too, me too. Like, and it's just like, yeah, like where else are you going to talk about that? You know?
True. It's so true. I love it. I love it. And actually, you like really brought tears to my eyes as sharing your story. See, someone is going to resonate with that story so much. Oh my gosh, I do so much too. And the darkness, like, right?
Yeah.
We just all want, and we don't know it when we're in it. I
Yeah.
agree with that. That really hit home for me. Um, so what's different about this program that you didn't get from therapy, ABA, or other practitioners?
I think in this program specifically is that I always know the why. Now, I'm never guessing about why I'm doing something. I'm
Mm,
adding this or I'm taking this away for this reason. Like, or if it's like, hey, 1 + 2 = 3, and there's a pathway that I'm on to get to this end goal. And the end goal isn't like a cure to autism or that he will talk or that he will, the end goal is just like the betterment of your family. And it's like these are the ways that we're going to get there and hopefully help heal his body. And that is like like I would go to speech therapy and I would learn with him and then I would do it at home, and there was no change really. And so it's like here I just feel like I understand the why, so it's easier for me to be like, okay, like make sure we get these things in us today to be able to, like we make sure we prioritize like getting outside and having our juice in the morning, and like how we plan our meals throughout the week and throughout the day. So I feel like I'm able to support him better because I know why. I'm able to advocate for him better because I'm more knowledgeable on everything.
I love that. It's so true. And it makes such a big difference in motivation. It's hard
Yeah,
to implement when you don't know why you're doing it. I agree with
no.
that.
And I felt like, yeah, like before I was left behind. Like I never, I didn't have like the answers and I didn't really know why I was trying all these things. Like I was like, I know it was just like a bunch of things that I was trying, but I didn't know the why or what I was looking for. Like, how was it successful? Was it successful? I don't know. Like, what am I looking for? So now it's like to have the structure and the support to be able to ask questions, but also like to review the calls, hear other people's questions. It's like, no, we're on the right path here. This makes sense. This is normal. Like, like when I was like, hey, we've started doing this folate juice and we've seemed to be like vocally stimming more. Like, is this normal? Like to be able to ask questions like that is safe and nice.
And it's true, and it is normal, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And knowing not even just that it's normal, but that there's a timeline for
yeah,
it to end. And
yeah,
I think that that's something that parents, and I will give a fun example in this interview. I had a conversation in my DMs where a parent was regretting changing their child's diet because
yeah.
their child started stimming and covering their ears. And I said, well, it is part of the process, but it should
Mhm.
only last this long. Keep going. Don't stop. And they're not in the program, and I'm telling them that, right? Just don't stop. But if you don't have that back and forth and that experience from other parents, from myself, it really is harder because then people quit.
Well, you're guessing, and it's like, cool, this isn't working.
Yeah.
This is not where we want to go. Like, I don't want more of this. Like, it seems like we're doing more, like more damage. So stop.
Yeah. But now you know why it happens, right?
Yeah,
From like the deep down, and you know that it's literally just a short-lived experience.
yeah,
I love that. It's true. And that's what our goal is always to have the foundations of biology, right?
yeah.
We know why it happens, and this is the outcome that's going to come. Okay, if you were sitting, I think, oh, sorry. So how has your life changed as a parent, mentally, emotionally, or even in your confidence?
Um, I feel like I said before, like you don't really know. Like as a parent with a child with additional needs, you don't know how deep you are in it until you are able to look back on it. Like you're just surviving. Like, and I didn't realize how much trauma I had from like the daycares, the babysitters, like anticipating phone calls, like this fight or flight response that I was constantly living in my day to day. Um, until I could look back on that and be like, my life is so different now. I still have, don't get me wrong, I still like hold my breath when he goes to kindergarten, but it's not the same anymore, like as what it used to be. We couldn't do anything before. I was like, I remember when I signed him up for like a swim lesson and it was swim abilities. So it was for children with disabilities and I was there as well. And we couldn't even do that. Like my husband and I were talking about it because he was upstairs on this like deck with my newborn baby and watching Merrick running around the swimming pool, like jumping into the deep end when we were supposed to be in the toddler pool. And he was like, oh no. Oh no. And it like with those swim abilities, man. Like it's like we've been through it. And now, like I said, we're going to all these things and we get to be a family. Like, and I think that's what the biggest thing is that I love hanging out with them. It's fun to me. It's fun. I'm like, I love finding out his interests now. Before he had no interest that I knew of. He wasn't able to express them to me. He didn't care what it looked like about anything. And now he is able to share with me things that he likes and wants to do. And I love reading to him and singing and celebrating him. Like, really, our life is just so much lighter than what it used to be. It used to feel dark and scary and lonely. And now I enjoy it. Like there's just like we still have the hard days, but there's so many more good days now that I'm just like, and I feel like because he's able to participate in things in school in general education that I'm able to advocate for people with disabilities because when he's in his kindergarten class and I was there helping, he was, jumping up and down and stimming. And one of the kids was like, why does he do that? And I was like, don't you ever get excited and you just want to like jump around? And he's like, yeah, I do. Yeah. And it's like, I like that I'm able to share with them. And they're like, he has an AAC device. And they're like, oh, what's on his iPad? And I was like, oh, sometimes like, I was like, when you don't know the word and you got to find it, I was like, he can look on here and find the word. And then it helps them be able to say that. And I feel like I'm able to like advocate that their first experience seeing a child with a disability can be positive and not scary, where, maybe they're throwing things or biting or being aggressive, that it can be a positive experience that we can share the world with everybody and it can be light. So I am at a capacity that I'm able to do that. Maybe before I wouldn't have been as sincere, as kind, as compassionate because I didn't have the capacity to be any of those things anymore. I was drained. I didn't look after myself. I didn't work out. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I had lost, like, I was the heaviest I had ever been. And when Merrick started changing and we started living, I was able to work out again and I was able to prioritize my own health and get my like emotional and mental capacity up again, that I was able to make time for myself and for my family.
I love that. And actually I always like to ask that, how is your husband? How is that relationship now all together? Because you guys are all in it together, and your daughter, like everybody is experiencing it. How does that show up?
It's so funny because he always calls it like, before I used to call it like my witchcraft when I was like, oh, let's try this, or let's try this. And he was always like, whatever, sure. But never really on board, but was like, sure. Like he was never against it. He just kind of like listened to my stuff and whatever. And then we did carnivore and he saw the change and he even said like, I will help you implement, I will help you cook, I will help you get on this. And then it was funny, we were talking about it last night and he was like, then he started being like, yeah, I'm gonna add my seed mixture to these things with the omegas in the brain. And he was like, he said, I was like, whatever, you do you, man. And then he's like, and then he started juicing, and I was like, this chick is being nuts. And but he's seen the difference, and he was like, that's what the craziest part is. He's like, now I'm like, there it is. Okay, so he's all about it now. So, and yeah, we got to have a relationship now. Like we were able to go away for the weekend, and someone was able to look after Merrick, and nobody called or texted me bad things, like it was, they gave me updates because I need to know. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't like come home or he's out of control or what would you do or he hit someone. It was sending me pictures of crafts that he was doing and songs that he was singing, and he's able to sit at the table now and do crafts with his respite worker. And we do like no screen time, so he yeah does crafts and sings songs, works on tracing the alphabet, sings like the phonics of the alphabet. Like it's just, yeah, like the stuff that he can do now is like, we said, if someone would have told us that this would have been our life, even last year, but specifically 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed them. We were so far from the reality that we're living right now, I wouldn't have believed them. That's what my husband and I said. Like it has just gotten, we're living our dream. Like we're living what we prayed for. And that is just never forgotten to me. Like I was like, I am like internally grateful.
Aw. I'm so grateful for you for like being this light. Honestly, you are literally shining a light. And that brings me actually to the last question, which if you were sitting across from another mom who's where you were, maybe at the 2 year mark, maybe at the 1 year mark, wondering if this program is right, if there's is the right next steps, what would you want her to know?
I'd give her a big hug.
Right? Just reach across the screen if you
Right. I was like, and I would say, like, I'm so proud of her to like even ask the questions, like how scary it is to go against the grain and society and ask these tough questions and try to advocate for your family. And it's probably in such a dark place. Like, I know how much strength that takes. So I would be like, number one, like, give yourself a pat on the back because that takes an incredibly strong person to be able to do that. I would also say, like, do it because you don't have the time to waste. Do it because if better is possible is good enough. Like, what would it cost to have a relationship with your child? What at what cost? That I remember you saying like, my son is wasn't a unicorn. He wasn't the unicorn. You implemented the stuff, and I didn't know if I believed that. And it's now I'm saying that my son is not the unicorn. Like I want everybody to know that I thought those same things, that helped you, but it won't help me. I've done everything and whatever. He's not the unicorn. And my family, I can confidently say, is probably like your family, the people that are looking at this. We had Merrick in COVID. We went and started a business in COVID. And I was like, and then that was from 2020 till now. So we had no money. Like everything we had was invested in our business, on top of paying for private therapies, on top of all this stuff. So I want people to know that it's not like we had a substantial amount of money or time that I was able to help our family. You know, I prioritized it. We did sacrifices, hadn't gone on a vacation in 5 years. Like, we made this a priority to get to the point that we're at now. And like I said, we're living our dream through the sacrifice of that. So just know that like change is possible. And another thing that I said was that this community, this program offers a money back guarantee. I am also a business owner. So it's like don't know if I would ever do that. Like, I was like, this pretty wild, but it's like, imagine the confidence that you would have to have in your product or your business to be able to offer that. That if you do the work and you attend the calls, you do the work, that if you don't see success, then you get your money back. It's like, to me, that was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, I know I wouldn't offer that if I wasn't confident in what I was able to provide people. So that's what I would say. I was like, you don't there's no risk, right? Like, if you do the work and it doesn't help, if your son or daughter wasn't the unicorn, then you get your money back. And it's like, to me, that was like, okay, then maybe try it. And so I think that would help. And another thing I would tell people is to look at the testimonials. I'm a big testimonial person. I don't think you can make that stuff up. It's just like reviews, Google reviews, that kind of stuff. Watch the videos, look at what people are saying, watch your stories about the Win Wednesdays. Like, that's not made up. This interview isn't made up. You didn't tell me what to say. This was just, and nobody has to do it. Nobody has to do the interviews. No one has to write the testimonials. No one has to share their wins. And they choose to because it's working. Things are working. Their lives are getting better and they want people to know about it. So it's like, I understand it's scary and it's a lot of money and it's a lot of time and you're tired, and but just try. And know that like all these moms were there. I was there. Like, I wasn't like, I know a lot of online they say like, your son or people's sons or daughters weren't profoundly autistic, or you don't know what it was like. And it was like, okay, well, my son was nonverbal, aggressive, not potty trained, eloping. I was like, it's pretty profound. Like, we got kicked out of daycares. Like, I had to leave work. So we were pretty severe on the spectrum. And now hearing my life and if living my life, I'm like, that is night and day from where we used to be. And it wasn't because we were in therapies 50 hours a week. And like, I would tell the mom to like, I want her or the dad to be able to walk into a doctor's office and be able to advocate for their family and be like, this is what I need you to do and this is why. Not go into a doctor's office or anything like that and then get answers of a blanket system that's not helping our children, because they're not the same. They're not everyone no Everyone's not the same. So you be the expert in your own family's health and then advocate off of that.
So true. It's so true. That was so good. Well, with that being said, I did keep you for the whole hour, so I hope you're okay with that. I cannot even begin to imagine. Honestly, I cried through that interview. I had tears. I was like, "Ooh, I'm wearing mascara. I better not." And it's all of it. It's exactly what you said. Those beliefs that it's hard for families to imagine.
It
Like, where
is.
we are, because it's like I get that all the time. Actually, I got a message, a comment on it the other day saying the exact same thing. Well, he wasn't profoundly autistic. Well, he checked all the boxes, every single one.
Well, and exactly. And they don't say like, they don't like here in Canada, they don't necessarily give a level anymore. So it is what it is. But I just wanted to say before the end that I, maybe a month ago, finally got contacted from our provincial disability program, that I applied to 3 years ago. So if I would have waited and not paid for therapies, researched my own things, joined programs, we would have got no help for 3 years. So Merrick would have, who knows where he would be, because it took 3 years to even get contacted from them to be able to talk about providing services. We don't have those services yet. We're in talking about a contract and it's not solidified yet. So if you wait for people to help you or the government to help you, you have to be the voice. Like you have to start taking the steps to help your family right now.
right now. No, I
Yeah.
totally, I see that. And 3 years,
Yeah.
that's actually, it seems like a long time in Canada. 2019 is actually where they're at right now. So 6 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's a 2 year wait for a diagnosis if you're publicly diagnosed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, your child's not getting anything until they're 8. I know
Yeah.
it's
And it's like we spoke about like, but everyone says early intervention, early intervention. Okay, well, and it is the time, like exactly. Like now he gets the privilege of this early intervention because we took matters into our own hands. So
Oh, it's so true. Okay, I'm going to, for anyone who would like to join the program, obviously this is quite a possibility, and reach out. I just want to thank you so much for this interview. Honestly, it was kind of life-changing for me too. I don't, I also get scared to even ask for interviews. It's a little bit of this funny thing to do the work and then get to experience this. And honestly, just knowing that the impact you're having, even just like when you're talking to people, it's life changing for me too. So I'm so grateful. All
of
right, I love that. All right, so I'm going to stop